Welcome to New Mexico in Focus. Later this hour, I'll sit down with this week's Line Opinion panelists to discuss the role of affordable housing in New Mexico and the discord surrounding some university regents. But first, we turn to another important topic. School safety is on the minds of many parents in New Mexico right now, with the recent school shooting in Florida, along with the shooting at the high school in Aztec last December. We asked 3 local leaders to join us this week to talk about steps that are being taken to address school safety and the issues we should talk about as we continue to look at this issue across the state and across the country. I'm joined by Officer Rob DeBuck from the Albuquerque Police Department. He's also the resource officer at Highland High School. Michael Baker is here. He's Chief Operations Officer at Rio Rancho Public Schools. And Paul Feist is a former deputy chief in the Albuquerque Police Department and a principal in the Soteria Group. Officer DeBuck, starting with you, I'm interested in what you're hearing in the most important population we've got with kids. What are you hearing from kids about safety right now? What's the feedback that you're getting?
You know, Gene, I am so glad you asked that question. So often we forget the kids as being one of our major stakeholders in this whole discussion. And I'm a firm believer in bringing kids into any type of decision-making process because it's their future we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But immediately subsequent to the shooting in Florida, I had a number of conversations with the kids. Mm-hmm. And so often you get the idea that the kids are in their own little world and very ethnocentric based because they're teenagers. Right. But I've had some very thoughtful conversations with the kids over at Highland and their thoughts about an active shooter. And so many of them have said that, you know, they don't get paranoid about it, but it's certainly on their radar. Mm-hmm. And actually, and some of the kids, you know, kind of the spectrum where some kids kind of just brush it off and other kids are very traumatized by it and still are dealing with that. Mm. The whole issue of an active shooter and what's going on around the country. But the kids, kind of the mainstream group of kids that I've talked to, it's definitely on their radar. They're definitely concerned about it, and they have strong ideas about what we should do about it. And we need to bring them into this discussion. We had a meeting at Highland about school safety issues, mm-hmm. and we did bring a kid in to participate because we need them there. We need their voice, and they have a lot of perceptions and insights that we don't see. Mm-hmm. So often we just think, well, we're adults, we can make all the decisions. But they're important stakeholders, and we need to include them. So that was a good question.
I appreciate you saying that. Michael, the Rio Rancho went through something just a little bit ago where you had a threat on one of the schools. There was an instant reaction on social media by yourself, the mayor. It was actually Johnny on the spot that night before. It turned out to be not an active shooter threat situation that came to be. But I'm curious how you approach social media now that it's part of our lives. And someone posting a threat on social media, someone reacting to social media from an official capacity. What's your sense of how social media is working in all of this?
Well, Gene, the social media issue is an easy way for threats to be disseminated throughout the masses. Mm-hmm. And we can also use that tool to instill a sense of calm among the parents and our employees as well. Mm-hmm. And so in this particular case, we did have a threat, and what we do is we immediately investigate the threat. Rio Rancho Police Department conducted an immediate investigation in conjunction with our security, and we tried to focus and determine the level of threat, whether it was a valid threat or not a valid threat. Mm-hmm. And after a preliminary investigation, also trying to determine who actually sent the particular message. We determined that we believe that it was not a valid threat, and we tried to instill calm. We immediately used social media in order to send out the message to our parents. And what we did is the following day, we beefed up security. We had police officers at the schools, additional police officers at the schools. We had additional security at the schools to ensure that that school that day would be safe, and it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a difficulty, Paul, when I think about how one takes threats either seriously or not seriously. I don't think we're in a position now to just not take any threats seriously. Would you agree with that? That all have to be acted on at this point. So again, the same message to parents and to students. What do you tell students and administrators? How do you guide them to work through these kind of processes?
I think our nation changed a lot, not just 9/11 and how we look at terrorism, airports, and the things we're looking at, the safety of our community as a whole. In schools, parents need to be involved. As Rob said, the students need to be involved as well. I think we need to take a holistic approach to this and do more than just, and it's a great segue into it. When an event happens at a school and we send out the information, whether it's social media or through the notifications through the school system itself, we try to get the information out to everyone so that they can participate. And then we say the next morning is, well, we're going to have a bigger presence at school, and we're going to be doing all these great things. But why are we doing some of those things in advance? So we don't have to wait for an event to happen to do that. Now, say tomorrow we may do it at Highland High School or Sandia High School or Rio Rancho High School. But move our resources around so that the tentative or to-be active shooter doesn't know our game plan. We don't put the quarterback game on the table up front, right? Just let them worry about where are we at the time.
I see.
And give the information to the parents so they know how they're going to react when the situation happens. So we don't have them rushing in. Let the officials and the professionals do what they need to do in conjunction with the school.
Let's talk about the actual physical makeup of schools and how one protects a school. Paul, I'll stay with you on this. You assess vulnerability issues when it comes to schools and other institutions. What are some of the things that folks need to know about schools? How vulnerable are they actually?
I think that is very important to look at each school individually.
Okay.
A vulnerability assessment is not a blanket. It's not something you can just say, well, we looked at APS and APS this is their concerns. For example, in the county, Rio Grande High School is much different than Del Norte High School. They make up the neighborhood, the community around them needs to be taken into account. The customs and culture within the school, how the people within the school react. I did a vulnerability assessment on one of the schools in the northern part of the state, and they were doing everything they could to rebuild and to retrofit their school. And as they were doing so, I was looking at some of their plans, and they said on our fire evacuation, we're going to go out the north door, and we're going to go across the parking lot there to the field out there, the baseball field. Problem was, there was a building being erected between the two. And so they had forgotten that once something changes on campus, they need to change their plan. They need to keep up with what they're doing. And the vulnerabilities are ever changing. And you need to continue to review them and to do individually with the schools, and then create those crisis management teams or those experts in your environment to assist in protecting the school.
Officer DeBuck, pick up on that, but I also want you to throw in that you do obviously training with active shooter training.
Yes, that's correct.
Let's mash those two things together. What do you think about vulnerabilities in schools as you see them, and how does that address that idea of being a good active shooter school, meaning you can protect kids versus a more vulnerable school?
Well, there's a concept called CEPTED. It has to deal with safety through environmental design, and there's different theories about how we can mitigate possible threats, having maybe one common exit and entrance out of a school. For example, some schools are set up like that, like Albuquerque High. And as Paul said, I mean, it's a very eclectic range of schools and the structures that we're dealing with. Highland High School was built in 1949, but you compare it to one of our more, Trisco Heritage, which is a very spread out campus, and there's a good deal of distance between the buildings. So I think as far as vulnerability, we really need to deal with access control. And developing strategies to restrict the people that come and go from campus. Who's coming on our campus? Do we know where they're coming and who they are? So we need to develop a system where we can identify who's coming on campus. And they do use a system. It's called Raptor, a lot of the schools, and they can get a lot of information, and it'll be an automatic hit if somebody has any sex offenses or things of that nature. But a lot of the schools aren't actually applying the technology that we already have.
I see. So, does it make a difference in age if you're dealing with elementary kids versus junior high versus high school? How do those different age ranges deal with that kind of training?
Well, absolutely. When you're dealing with high school kids and even middle school kids, a lot of the active shooter training that we do, we've done at a lot of the private schools at Hope Christian, for example, where we're dealing with middle school kids. And their problem solving abilities are fairly advanced. And as adults, we tend to underestimate kids' ability to respond to a changing environment. So when we do active shooter training with the middle school kids, they will ask a question like, Officer DeBuck, what do we do if somebody comes in with 2 guns? And my thing is, well, I don't know. What do we do? What are you going to do? So we run the scenario with them, and they adapt and they overcome. But when you're dealing with young kids, and I remember when we set up this program in 2011, working with a lot of the schools and active shooter protocols, we had a teacher, one of the staff members at Hope Christian, say, "Well, I teach elementary school. I got little kids. I'm teaching kindergarten, and what am I going to do if an active shooter comes in and I'm the only adult there?"
Right.
And unfortunately, and again, we as police officers and law enforcement, we don't have the luxury of living in fantasy world. And my response is that kids are going to die, and 3 weeks later we had Sandy Hook.
Right.
But Hope Christian adapted and changed, and they have multiple. Now they've combined a number of preschool classes, so they have a number of adults in the class. So they have adapted because the kids are not capable of taking care of themselves at the younger they are. But you look at high school kids, and when we're dealing with high school kids, when we're talking about and it's a topic that people want to shy away from, but the whole concept of fight back.
Right.
And that's an element that I teach in active shooter presentations. But we will have people shy away from fighting back. My argument is that if you have the choice between dying or fighting, if you have no other option because you're trapped in a situation, then you fight. And these high school kids, or any of the kids, middle school kids, high school kids, have the ability to do that. These are and the teaching that we have done working with the kids is that they can think on their feet. You have to empower both the kids and staff to make decisions because it is a constantly changing environment. So we have to stay away from the always and nevers. Never
Right.
do this, always do
We
this.
hear that a lot these days.
We do.
Yeah.
But so we need to stay away from that because they have to be able to think on their feet. And they have to come up with the solutions to a lot of the problems. We did a lockdown drill at Highland, and one of the kids says, "Well, where are we supposed to go?" And it was at lunch. I go, "I don't know. That's for you to figure out."
Right.
And they did a great job because they figured out where they needed to go and they went.
There you go. Michael Baker, listening to this, there's short-term solutions, there's long-term solutions. You kind of straddle both worlds as an ex-police chief and now an executive at Rio Rancho schools. In your planning, how do you approach this? There's a board to be dealt with. There's all kinds of different factors that have to be factored into these decisions. So short and long term, where are you guys coming from on that?
Well, Gene, we've, safety and security is nothing new. We've been working on it for many, many years. And what we do is every year we're continually increasing our security measures. And this year we're increasing it, next year and the year after. We've been very, very fortunate in Rio Rancho. Our community supports us. We've successfully passed a bond election, also what's called an SB9 election for additional funding in order to beef up security. Our philosophy is to have different layers of security. Okay. So there's not just one method to engage in as far as to helping kids be safe. There's many, many things that we can do. We've gotten additional funding from our political delegation from the Rio Rancho area to do a host of other infrastructure changes. One of the biggest things I think we've done is what we call forced entry. And what forced entry is, it's a hardening of the entryway where in the past, people literally could just walk in the front door and just walk into the schools without being observed.
Right.
Now what we do is we've remodeled the entire front structure of the front of the schools. We have 3 more schools that are online to be done this summer, which will complete all of our schools in Rio Rancho. Other things that we've done is we have a thing called access control, so all the perimeter doors are electronically controlled. So when we have to go into a lockout situation, we can just hit one button and the entire school goes on lockout. We have communication, our PA system, where we can get the message across very clearly to everybody in the school if something does happen. We also have beefed up our camera system, video camera system, so we have live
These things
cameras.
cost money.
They do cost money, and,
Yeah.
like I said, even though we can't afford to do everything in
Right.
1 year, every year we add to our system. This year alone, in our system, we've added over 100 cameras to our schools, and we're continuing to add cameras. And those cameras, we have 2 centralized areas where people are reviewing those cameras throughout the entire district while the students are at school, and they're trying to look for issues before they actually occur. So the cameras are recorded, and it does help, but it's the preventative nature of those camera systems that help us actually deter certain things, not just, you know, active shooter is one actual component, although an important component, but there's many other components to keep students safe. For example, just kids fighting, for example.
That's a good point. I really appreciate you guys coming in. This has been an important topic. We're going to keep on this. It's just one part of the conversation about school safety and gun violence. I want to ask the viewers to share your thoughts on what you want to see us cover next on this issue here at NewMexicoInFocus.org. Thank you all for coming in.